Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about an update year again for the Traxxas Jado. We did pick up this Traxxas Jado for $200 Canadian, which is like $200 more than I should have paid for what this thing actually exists as today. When all is said and done, it's going to be a very expensive used Traxxas Jado. So let's take a look in this video at the engine. In the last video we did, we noticed that there's an issue with the crankshaft having a lot of play, and we're suspecting that we got some bearing problems within the engine. We're going to take apart the engine and find out exactly what is going on within it, and we'll be able to see that play when we have the engine opened up. And then what we want to do is decide on what we're going to do with that engine, and if we do decide to run it, then we're going to throw it out on the streets after fully assembling everything and giving it a good rip around and see how that goes. So let's jump right into it and take a look at what's inside that engine. Here is the engine. We got the back plate out of the engine so we can see the connecting rod crank. I'm going to zoom in so that we can see a little bit more clearly here all the details of what's going on as I begin to rotate the assembly. So the big thing to pay attention as I'm starting to rotate this crank is the oil that you'll find in the crankcase on the connecting rod and just below the crankshaft there. And as you see it rotate in one direction, you can see that the oil either disappears and goes into a cavity that's opening up, and then as I rotate in the opposite direction, that oil ends up being displaced and pushed out so you can visibly see it. When you look at the connecting rod, I mean, you can really clearly see it visible there as we rotate, the oil that gets displaced out of it. So obviously that is a major concern. As we look at other areas, specifically the carburetor, I don't have a seal there. That seal actually disintegrated and fell off. So that's a significant problem for us, and that's ultimately going to prevent us from getting any sort of tune here. And you can even see in this area as we twist the engine, there is a considerable amount of play that we can visibly see there. Well, there you have it. The engine is a complete disaster as expected, and we're going to have to do something about that. And because it's such a big disaster, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble it for now, and we're going to throw it into the Jado and give it a run and see what happens. I'm not expecting much here because there's issues all around, but we'll see, what happens. I'm thinking we're going to have to purchase a brand new engine. So I need help from you guys. What kind of engine do we go and replace this? Is it worth it to actually rebuild the current one that we have? I personally don't think so because the cost is probably going to be like 400 Canadian, and I can buy a brand new Traxxas Jado engine for about 300 Canadian. And if we don't go with the rebuild option, then we have to consider what engine are we going to replace this with? Is it going to be a new Traxxas 3.3 engine, or should we be looking at something like the Dynamite 19? I heard that those engines are pretty good. It's a little bit smaller in displacement, but still has a good amount of power down low as well as on the top end. So I'm looking for your feedback. What engine should we move forward with? All right, guys, we got the Traxxas Jado all buttoned up now, and everything has been installed. It's taken quite a bit of time to get everything together and installed, and what I want to do is show you exactly what it looks like, and then we're going to go and take it onto the streets and just see if the engine will actually run, because I'm not suspecting anything good there as we don't have a carburetor that is fully sealed. So there's going to be all kinds of air leaks for that run that we're going to make. So here, let's take a look at what we got going on here. I'm going to get the video camera up and we'll take a look at this. All right, guys, here we go. This is the Traxxas Jado, and as you can see, there are a lot of brand new parts on this Traxxas Jado. We got a brand new pipe, we got a brand new chassis mount brace up top, as well as all the different radio receiver covers. We got new hardware that we're using here, brand new spring right off of the Traxxas Jado parts list. And we got front suspension as well as the rear suspension is brand new. I'm not a big fan of these yet. I think I need to adjust them. And as you can see, it's extremely difficult to press down. And when you release, you can see how slow they rebound. So I have to look at the actual fluid that's used in here, maybe go on to a thinner fluid. And if that can't help because it already is a thin fluid, I'm gonna have to open up the hole that allows the fluid to travel within that shock tower. So that's a couple things there, and if I go and swing around the Jado and we take a look at the other side, what I'm doing is I'm not using a battery in the back tray here. This way, I don't want any weight that hangs after of the wheel, the axle here. So I have the battery here mounted in this receiver box, and it is a small lithium polymer battery that's being used in here. What I was worried about with the weight here in the back is I don't want the Traxxas Jado to pick up and wheelie all day long. I know any car can do that if you balance out the weight to be perfect, but that's not what we're after here. We want to hit some decent speed with this Traxxas Jado. So in order to do that with the 2S LiPo, I do have a BEC that's used here, and then, you know, after it comes out from the on switch, then it goes through the BEC and then over to the radio system. So that's how that works. We still got the factory tank that came with this. I didn't clean this up yet. This is probably the only part that I've not actually cleaned up. Everything else has been cleaned up significantly. And we got, you know, we left the arms on there. And at the rear end here, looking at the transmission, we did get a new spur gear because I want the original gearing that the Traxxas Jado used. And that is the fastest gearing that the Traxxas Jado has for it. If you want to go faster than this, then you have to move to Mod 1 type gearing. And we did have to replace that clutch bell because the clutch bell was completely obliterated from the previous user. And because we were already in there, we ended up changing out the pads, the shoes, the clutch shoes, as well as the clutch spring. It looks like the spring was stretched and probably wouldn't work well either way. And then the last part here, we got this bracket added. It didn't come with this when I bought it, so I added that as well as bought the harness. So then I have the harness there now for the easy start system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this guy right on the engine so that we can get this thing fired up. And as expected, the Jado performed pretty well as we predicted, which was not so good. And that's primarily because of the engine issues that we have, especially since we don't have anything really sealed up within that engine. The carb has a ton of air leaks because all the seals are essentially trashed on it. So really this comes back to that question that I asked you guys, is which engine should we move to? Should we buy a new 3.3 engine, or should we move to the Dynamite 19 engine? I'm looking for the engine that has the best top end, and that's because this Jado is going to be a speed run car. So if you know which one is best for that, let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully we get an engine within the next few weeks so that we can really open up the Jado and see exactly what these things are all about. Until then, thanks for watching. See you guys later.